if you think these corruption issues are important, if you think that, for instance, that if Republicans control a House and Congress, maybe they should decline to fund the invasion of the United States that Biden's enabling. I want to talk about what the House has done or not done to uphold the rule of law and defund the abuses of power by President Biden. The Republican-controlled House has consistently funded everything they say they hate, practically speaking. Now, I know sometimes there are some things at the margins they're able to get at in these continuing resolutions or their funding fights. But practically speaking, the outrageous, dangerous, destructive effort to jail Trump is fully funded by the Republican-controlled House, repeatedly, time and time again. Does it mean every Republican votes for it? No, but it means about half of them do with every Democrat. Same goes for the Biden border invasion. That's continued to be funded. And every other abuse under the sun that you don't like, including the censorship of Americans and baby killing, abortion, things like that. It's just unbelievable that they haven't curtailed that to any significant extent using the leverage of these continuing resolutions. A continuing resolution is a process in which the government continues to be funded with congressional authorization. They just keep on the money gets that they appropriated just continues to flow from prior years with no checks in place. So that's the continuing resolution until they pass an official appropriation measure for a specific agency. So to that end, there was they funded 5 or 6 agencies through what critics call, and I would call, an omnibus. I don't know why we picked the word omnibus to criticize this, because no normal person knows what an omnibus is. Essentially, it's a gargantuan bill. It was 1,000 pages. It was 1,050 pages. I actually read a good part of it. And on top of that, I think there were, I don't know how many pages of earmarks, but a large number of earmarks. And earmarks are what they call member-directed projects, right? Where a member inserts a specific spending measure to benefit their specific jurisdiction. So a senator, their state, a congressman, usually their own congressional district. And that's where a lot of corruption begins and ends, in these earmark processes. So that's just another issue that's so outrageous about government or congressional spending. But this bill, the 5 or 6 agencies, included the Justice Department. The Justice Department had full funding. They voted with, as I said, that virtually every Democrat and about half of Republicans voted to fully fund the Justice Department's efforts to jail Trump through the end of the year or the end of the fiscal year. So they could have had an amendment, for instance, to say no money for Jack Smith, no money to fund a prosecution of a presidential candidate. They have federal DOJ funds that go to jurisdictions like in New York and New York City and Fulton County, Georgia, and Georgia. No haircuts to them for violating the civil rights of Trump. No effort to ensure federal funding doesn't go to support that abuse of power. So I don't know about you, but I am upset that Republicans in the House and the Republican leadership, Speaker Johnson, who is generally a pretty conservative guy, but his analysis and his thinking on this approach to spending, I think, is just wrong. And the idea that they would allow to go through a funding measure that fully funds the Justice Department's jihad against the Republic is just beyond belief to me. Now, there'll be other opportunities to curtail this type of spending because there'll be another giant spending bill that comes up. And so all sorts of opportunities will continue to arise in this regard. And so this is why you have to continue to communicate with your members of Congress. If you think these corruption issues are important, if you think that, for instance, that if Republicans control a House and Congress, maybe they should decline to fund the invasion of the United States that Biden's enabling. Maybe they should decline to fund the Justice Department and other jurisdictions' efforts to rig our election and jail essentially and destroy the Republican Party opposition to the Democratic Party that runs the presidency right now and runs the Senate? It's not just here in Washington, it's other states that are doing this. I just read the Arizona, a Democratic Attorney General state, he's thinking of ways to put Republican operatives in jail there for daring to dispute the 2020 election. This is a broad effort to criminalize politics. And I just can't, I understand there's all sorts of calculations, tactical considerations on these big spending measures, and they don't want to shut the government down. They don't want to shut an agency down. Well, forgive you me. If an agency is trying to destroy the republic, it should be shut down until those actions that are destroying the republic are curtailed. Forgive me for thinking that. Now you got me going here. And if you're concerned about these issues and you want to share your views, call your members of Congress, call your senators, because the Senate is now considering what the House just did. So what happens is the House passes it, and then the Senate, they might run amendments. It's unlike they've got, again, the establishment Republican senators will work with the Democrats. I get confused because sometimes Democrats are Republicans and Republicans are Democrats in terms of these policy fights. So there's only about 20 or so Republicans in the Senate that are consistently opposed to this type of spending monstrosities. And in addition, why on earth would you pass a bill for $460 billion at once? Does that sound like good government to you? So anyway, it's in the Senate, and so they have to pass, and then I guess if there are any changes, it goes to conference or it goes back to the House, and then the president will get to sign it. So the process is still continuing. So it's not too late to call, and as I said, there will be other bills like this for other agencies, like DHS, I think, is next. That's where the invasion can be curtailed most directly. Call your members of Congress at 202-225-3121. That's 202-225-3121.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.